So, Dean, tell us a little bit about translation support.
So ever since Cherwell version 9.3.2 is when they began adding support for multiple cultures or languages, and it allows you the capability to translate the entire application if that's how far that you want to take it. But namely, its main intended purpose from a service desk perspective is to allow the capability to have your end user portal translated and available in various cultures. So let's say that your organization primarily performs support activities in English, but you support and provide services in other countries. And from an end user perspective, you need to be able to offer your services in multiple languages. Well, Cherwell has added localization or globalization support to the entire Cherwell platform. So there's a few different components to that, but namely, I'm going to be showing the portal side and the available cultures that come with Cherwell automatically. So I do have an out-of-the-box example here. And Cherwell does come with several different cultures. We have English, German, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. That comes out of the box pre-configured. So if you're deciding whether or not that you want to leverage different cultures, there's more that can be added. There is Unicode support for like Russian or Chinese simplified or traditional that is available that you can add to the application. But just as a sample demo, once I'm logged into the portal here, I have home, my item service catalog, and my entire portal page that would be exposed to an end user. In the top right here, I'm defaulted to the English culture, but I can switch to view it in Spanish, and it will automatically translate everything that's on the page. There's some behind the scenes work that would have to be accomplished in order to have this goal. But one big advantage is not only is the page going to be translated, but my service catalog as well. So I added employee support here, and let's take a look at maybe a new hire form. So navigating over to configuration de nuevo empleado, right here. My Spanish is pretty bad. Let me cancel that. I have to re-authenticate, apologies. Switch back over, log out, log back in as Henri. So switching back over to the Spanish culture, viewing the service catalog, coming into employee support, and request for a new hire. I am presented the same form that would be available in English, but it is fully translated into Spanish. And any of the drop downs here could also be translated into any culture that you want. So viewing this field and the underlying constraints for the validated lookup table here, if I select and fill out this form in Spanish, let me just choose a few options here. Location, telephone. Throw some information in here. So order a MacBook Air here. And let's go ahead and submit this. So the nice thing is that once we translate any specific form or an entire site into another language, coming back into the rich client and taking a look at the incident or service request that was submitted, as long as the underlying lookup tables have been translated in every single language, Cherwell uses what they call foreign key support. And even though that the form would be submitted in another language, the actual values would come over in whatever language that you're viewing it in. So selecting the department or, the employee type being contractor, because it is translated and it's available in multiple languages, whatever language that I'm viewing it in, so it was completed in Spanish, but I'm able to view it in English. So it allows the capability for anybody in any language to submit anything in their language. But if your service desk works primarily in English, but you may have, a few employees that speaks those other languages, they'll still be able to perform the actions or the tasks related to that incident or service request. And it just requires that the lookup tables be fully translated for each one of the drop downs. So just to show you a little bit of what this looks like, taking a look at employee type here, if I come into any of the tables inside of table management, like incident subcategory for a new employee, let me pull that up. So request new employee setup, this is the request that we were looking at inside of the portal. And down here, I have not only the subcategory that is in English, this is the main field that controls, which values are going to appear in the portal. And I just simply translate it into, this is the US value, the French values, the Brazilian values, and the Spanish values. And in addition to that, if I create a new blueprint here and take a look at the form, in the top right here, this tells me which culture that I'm accessing the system in. So I can find that new employee setup form, employee onboarding. Let's find that form, the main form there. So this is an example of one of the forms, but I can switch the cultures and be able to fully translate the name of the fields, any of the drop downs. I would just have to make sure that any underlying lookup tables are enabled for translation support and be able to have those values appear in that language as well. So out of the box, Cherwell does come with those 5 translated languages, but we're able to not only translate the forms, the lookup tables behind each of these drop downs, but the full user interface inside of the portal we can also translate. So let me come back home over here. So this is the Spanish portal. Here's one in German, and I can just easily switch to the different cultures. Let's pick up the French one. So all the grids, all the values, if they have been enabled for translation support, we leverage heavily on the lookup tables in order to support that those translations. So for the example here, let's come back to maybe the incident grid. For Spanish, I find incident and at the form, let me come to the grid. So switching into the different cultures, I'm able to translate each of the fields for any of the grids. We can translate the forms as well. Even the names of the fields, we can fully translate. So if I come to the full field list, I'm able to display this information in the native language that they're accessing the system in. So it is good that Cherwell does have 5 languages automatically translated for the entire system, and it's not only the portal, but it's also the rich client as well. So if I wanted to switch from English to Spanish, I can quickly just switch that through that flag and everything would be fully translated. So if you have employees that need to fulfill items inside of the application, the rich client can also be translated as well. And if you guys are looking for assistance in how to accomplish that and give a good, rich user experience in multiple languages, we can certainly aid with that as well.
I actually have a question, and you
Sure.
may or may not be able to answer this for me. But when I'm looking at the different translations that are popping up, and we all know that in many languages there's different dialects depending on region, and I'm sure that the Spanish that they're using is more Castilian or Upper Spanish than anything. But does it account for? Is it able to account for different dialects from different areas because different words mean different things in the different dialects? So I'm just curious if it accounts for that, if it's that advanced.
Yeah. So depending on the regions, I've had some clients where we needed to add in a Chilean culture, the Mexico culture, and Brazilian Portuguese, and there was another one. So Chile, Mexico, I forget which other one, but we could add in as many cultures as you prefer. So coming into the system, let me switch back to English over here. But yeah, that's a really good question. Um, so coming into globalization here, managing the globalization settings here and the available cultures that you currently have. We can add in, and these are the other cultures that we can choose from. So if there are different dialects or even different languages that you're looking for, there are a lot that are out there. And let's say for Spanish, let me scroll down here. There's a lot of different cultures that are out there. So you
Wow,
have,
there's a plethora of them, huh?
yeah,
That's crazy.
Puerto Rico, Colombia, Chile, Brazil. There's a lot that you can add in there. But if you do add in multiple cultures that are essentially the same language, you would have that capability of supporting those different dialects. But it will add more complexity to the environment. So, for example, another client that I was working with, we added Chile, Brazil, and Mexico cultures, but the values ended up being the same across all three, but we had to add in and support all three cultures with the same values. So depending on how you want to, configure the system, if you want to keep it, relatively easy and just use the Spaniard culture, that's already translated within the system. So you'll be ahead of the game if you decide just to use Spanish, the Spaniard Spanish one. But if you want to create and manage and support all the different cultures, if there are multiple dialects, those could all be added. Um, and one thing to add in on that note is for like Russian, we have the Unicode text. I forget the actual term, but we have the capability for Russian to support, like the symbols and the images. The name escapes me of what those are called. Same thing for the Chinese culture as well. But you do have to convert your database over to a Unicode database in order to support those languages. It doesn't take too long for that. It's just a backup restore, and then you restore with Unicode support. But you can use, because I know Russian uses symbols and also just regular letters. We can use one or the other, or even both. So you do have a lot of flexibility from that standpoint. But Cherwell does come with these cultures out of the box, and if you want to add more, it just adds in a space for you to be able to translate that. And you can pick and decide, which forms that you want to translate. You can even develop your system in such a way where maybe there's only a handful of forms that are available in other cultures. We can have a custom visibility on which items in your service catalog are available in that country or in that culture, in order to restrict which ones are fully translated or are available throughout the world, depending on how your organization is structured. But yeah, we can add those different dialects.
So this is a question that you may or may not be able to answer, and it's just me
Mhm.
being curious, right? It probably
Sure.
doesn't mean a whole lot to the rest of the audience. It might mean something to somebody, but what is Cherwell using for these different dialects in translation? Where are they getting this information from? Are there people that they've hired to do the translation, or does this come from some kind of organization that specializes in this? Or I'm just curious.
Yeah. So how they went about creating these back in the day, they used to have, I believe, what's called language packs that you could apply to the system. But there are some language packs that I think are provided either by Microsoft or there might be another source out there for them. But it's a way for you to export out all of the lookup tables and all the values throughout the entire system that have been enabled for translation. You add the culture, export out everything, and send it out to a third party that can translate all of those, and then you can just re-import it, and it applies all those values. I haven't used the language packs much at all because we've had heavy involvement with the clients that I've worked with that needed the translation support. We've had active development together in order to get all the translations in. So we would maybe work on a form, get it fully online and available and structured, to support any language. There's some UI components to that, like making sure that the field width size is, wide enough to support any language that it might be available in. And we came up with a good standard on that. And once we had it available in English, we would send that out for translation to all the different languages that it needed to be available in. So language packs are available. It's a good resource to use. But if you work closely with some other, internal employees that may speak multiple languages, we can leverage a hybrid model of getting these in. So it's relatively straightforward from that perspective. But yeah, language packs is an option. Active development or working hand in hand with somebody that can speak that language. Um, we've done it that way. For for another client that I have that has it available in Chinese Simplified, we've used PowerPoint um, presentations in order to send out those forms, and then they're able to type it in their own language and then send it back to us. We copy paste those values in. So there's ways to get it in there, but yeah, we can even export, the full lookup table. So let's say that like an incident subcategory here.
Dean, just when I thought that I totally grasped
Mhm.
everything that the Cherwell tool is capable of, you blow me out of the water again. So thank you again.
For sure.
This is some capability and information on Cherwell that I didn't know anything about. So thank you for sharing today.
Yeah, for sure. It's come a long way. If there's anything out there that you guys have questions on, feel free to reach out.